Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
It's our research unit today, and we're going to be doing some research about digital technology. But the title of our article for today is called The Looming Threat of Digital Dementia, which kind of means that, we might be going crazy when we're old because of our digital devices. Who knew? I thought that these digital devices like smartphones and laptops and PCs were for our benefit. Who knows? They're actually going to make us go crazy when we turn old.
They could. It's a little scary. I was just telling Tom before we started that when I go outside, I always see people with their phones in their hands. Their heads are down. I refuse to even look at my phone outside unless someone calls me and then I take the call because we got to connect. We got to be alive and be in the world. People don't ever look at anybody. And if someone runs into me, I make them aware that they should be looking.
Watch where you going,
hey,
you careless creep, you.
Watch where you're going. Yeah.
Indeed. But, the temptation of those devices is just too strong for some people. I sneak a peek at people's screens once in a while to see exactly what they're looking at.
Yeah?
Most of the time, they're on some kind of social networking site. They're looking at Facebook posts, or they're sending messages to and from their friends online or whatever. And, you just don't want to miss out on that stuff. If somebody sends you a message, you got to see it right away. It is very addictive. It's like smoking. You've got to have one every 2 or 3 minutes. So in this case, though, we're talking about some potential dangers, and there has been some research into spending so much time on your smartphone and how it will affect your brain development as you grow up. And, of course, it does affect your development as a child, and then you might go crazy or become demented when you're elderly. Okay, so that's something to think about. But let's see what this article is all about. Let's read through it now one time.
Everywhere you turn, people are looking at their smartphones with their heads angled down and their eyes glued to the screen. They might be walking on the street, waiting for a bus, or even sitting on the train. At home, they use a laptop or tablet, and at work, many are required to sit in front of the computer. While this habit can take a physical toll, the mental cost is more serious, though subtle. In fact, some doctors are now referring to it as digital dementia and treating it as a mental disorder. The term digital dementia was coined by researchers in South Korea in response to the rise of internet addiction in children. This phenomenon, researchers say, can lead to failing cognitive and memory abilities by hampering brain development. The overuse of computers and smart devices can result in excessive activity of the left side of the brain, which regulates logic, language, and categorization. This then causes the right half of the brain, which is in charge of thinking and creativity, to be underdeveloped. In the long term, this deficiency can trigger early-onset dementia. German neuropsychiatrist Manfred Spitzer has even claimed that, in essence, the internet makes you dumber. This claim is especially true for children and teens, whose brains are still developing. If they grow up relying on the internet instead of their own thinking and memory abilities, their brains could become as impaired as that of a dementia patient. For many people, computer use has become inevitable. However, researchers insist that people limit their computer use. They can do this by spending more time taking walks, getting close to nature, or taking up hobbies and interests that don't involve digital devices. Without keeping internet usage in check, we could see the rise of an entire generation of people that is completely dependent upon the internet.
Okay, let's talk about the looming threat of digital dementia. Something's looming when something big or bad or terrible is about to happen. Like some people say, there's a looming crisis in the stock market. The stock market could crash this year, and this is a looming threat of digital dementia. Maybe this is going to cause some big problems. Dementia, of course, is some kind of mental disorder. Usually as you get older, you kind of lose your memory, your personality changes, and you start acting differently than you used to. That's kind of what dementia is all about. But this is a new term called digital dementia. As we're going to find out, it was kind of coined, or this term was coined or invented in South Korea.
So here's the scene we're going to set. Everywhere you turn, everywhere you look, we could also say, all around you. People are looking at their smartphones with their heads angled down and their eyes glued to the screen. If you're talking about an angle, guys, it's not just straight up and down. It's sort of at an angle, which looks like kind of a corner. So this is something that I just really hate. Everywhere, outside at least, especially, people all around you, no one's looking at anybody else. They're all looking at their smartphone screens. So you got to be careful. And if your eyes are glued to something, it's almost like you can't look anywhere else. You're stuck to the screen.
That's right. Their heads are angled down or they're bent down. They're glued to the screen. At least their eyes are glued to the screen. And they might be walking on the street. They might be waiting for a bus, or they might even be sitting on a train. What do you expect them to do, Stephanie? It's kind of boring to walk across the street or wait for a bus or sit on the train. They got to do something, and they've got messages from 20 or 30 friends that need to be responded to. And if they don't respond, somebody else will respond first with a better, more funny joke. So I got to be there to make my joke, and everybody can know I'm really cool and stuff. So indeed, this is what happens outside when you're on your smartphone. But hey, when you get home, you might put the smartphone down, and you might use your laptop computer or your tablet computer. And then if you're at work, many people are required to sit in front of the computer and use the PC or the Mac. My goodness, it seems that we can't get through a day without spending all sorts of time staring at a flat screen.
So the idea behind this sentence is just describing someone who is almost 24 hours a day looking at some sort of device that connects them to the world through the internet. So it's kind of scary to think about all the time we spend looking at some sort of screen. While this habit can take a physical toll, the mental cost that we're going to talk about today is even more serious and the one that's kind of scary. When you talk about a toll, the first thing that comes to my mind, at least, is the money that you have to pay when you go on not the freeway. We call it a freeway in the West because we don't have to pay tolls. When you go on the highway, sometimes you have to pay a fee to use those roads. Or if you take a bridge, sometimes there's a charge for going across a bridge too. Here we're saying this is some sort of damage that happens to you. So a physical toll would be the damage that happens to your body from constantly looking at a computer screen or putting your head down at an angle and looking at your smartphone.
Yeah, for example, I can say the marathon took a physical toll on Dave's body, and he couldn't walk for a week after the marathon.
Ow.
It took quite a toll on his body. But here, this particular habit of looking at smartphones and your tablet computer, your laptop, your PC, that can take a big toll on your body. But the mental cost is more serious, though subtle. Okay, so it is affecting your mind as well, and although it's not so obvious, it is very subtle, and something is subtle when it's just very difficult to perceive. It's just not very obvious. Sometimes, of course, when a girl wants to let a guy know that she's interested in him, she can't be too direct. She can't come out and say, John, I want to go out with you. Will you be my boyfriend? No, that's too direct. You got to be more subtle, okay? Maybe you got to look at him a certain way, or walk close to him, or say something nice to him. You got to be subtle so that he doesn't really notice it.
In fact, it says here some doctors are now referring to it as digital dementia. Referring to something here just means that's what they're calling it. This is the term they're using. digital dementia, and they're treating it as a mental disorder. A disorder here just means some sort of medical condition that's causing you problems. Something that is not allowing you to function normally can be a disorder. So they're saying something's wrong with your brain. Oh no. So it's something to really pay close attention to.Let's move on to the next paragraph here.
Let's do it. The term digital dementia was coined by researchers in South Korea in response to the rise of internet addiction in children. So here we've got the term, or this phrase, this term, digital dementia, and it didn't exist before, but some researchers in South Korea coined this term. Here we have the word coin being used as a verb. It just means you come up with some kind of new way to describe something. I'd like to know who coined the phrase 低头族 in Chinese. That's a perfect description of people nowadays spending too much time on their smartphones. Yeah, who coined that term?
Yeah, we don't have a comparable phrase in English. We need one because that's kind of cool. We just say, people are always, looking at their smartphones. I
just call them zombies myself.
Zombies, that's good. Kind of like you're walking dead. Now, this phenomenon, researchers say, can lead to failing cognitive and memory abilities by hampering your brain development. Failing means something is no longer working and it's getting worse and worse over time. Cognitive relates to our ability to think, to use our brains to think. So it can lead to the inability to think clearly, and also it affects your memory, your ability to remember things as well. If you hamper something, it means you're putting some sort of obstacle in front of something, so you can't function as well as you should. So there's something that's stopping you from performing as well. Maybe if you have a cold, you can be hampered by a cold. You don't feel great. Maybe you're not at home in bed, but you don't function at 100%. You feel a little bit fuzzy, a little bit tired, something like that. It can hamper you.
This does not sound very optimistic, so indeed, if you're spending too much time on your smartphone, you better think about pulling away from it from time to time.
Yeah.
We'll continue with our lesson in just a couple of seconds, but we're going to take a time out right now and listen to our Chinese teacher.Hello
everyone, my name is Tina. 我们今天要讲解的主题是 Digital Dementia, 也就是翻译成为数位痴呆症。首先我们来看到第一个空格，前面提到呢，不管走到哪里，你可以看到很多人都在使用他们的智慧型手机，或者是盯着他们的 laptop 或者是平板电脑。在这里我们来看一下第一个空格，后面的句子写着 This habit can take a physical toll. The mental cost is more serious, though subtle.在这里很明显的前后都是一个完整的句子，所以我们需要一个连接词来连接两个句子。前面的句子提到这个习惯呢，可能会造成一个身体上面的损伤，那么心灵的代价呢更严重，尽管是 subtle 其实当作形容词有难以察觉的意思。我们在这里来看一下第一题 A since 解释成为因为或者是自从， B if 如果， C while 尽管虽然， D until 直到。在这里可以连接两个句子的连接词是 C 选项的 while， 尽管这种习惯呢可能造成身体的损害，但是心智的损害却是更为严重。所以搭配文意，第一题的标准答案我们就选择 C 选项的 while。 第二个空格在这里提到The term digital dementia was coined by researchers in South Korea in response to the rise of Internet blank 2 in children. 为什么会有数位痴呆症这样子的名词？正是由这个南韩的研究者所创造出来的一个新字词，而这样的字词是 in response to， 是为了回应呢，在这个孩童当中可以看得到的对网络怎么样的一个 rise 高升、上升或是增加的意思。我们来看一下第二题 A expansion 扩展，B possession 拥有 D addiction 沉溺成瘾 D interruption 中断终止。正因为呢这个小孩子网络成瘾呢增加，所以就开始有了 digital dementia 这个字词。搭配文意，第二题的标准答案我们就选择 C addiction。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue talking about this term, digital dementia. Again, it was coined or invented by some people in South Korea, and this came as a result of internet addiction in children, and it can lead to failing cognitive and memory abilities. It can hamper your brain development. That does not sound good. Now, the overuse of computers, or using them too much, and the overuse of smart devices like iPads and iPhones and stuff, this can all result in excessive activity of the left side of the brain. So if you're using those devices too much, well, then you're probably using your brain on the left side too much. And the left side of your brain regulates logic, language, and categorization. Hey, try to say that 10 times with your hands tied behind your back, wearing a blindfold, okay? Categorization, 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 categorization. It's even hard for me to say. I should tell you what it means. It just means you kind of put things into categories. You sort them out. This goes here, that goes there, and that other thing goes over there.
Yeah, so it regulates logic, the ability to think reasonably, to not be silly or stupid. It regulates your language and the ability to put things in categories. If you regulate something, we often use this word when we're talking about the government, right?
Yeah.
They regulate different things. They're controlling or maintaining the rate or speed of something and how fast or slow it goes. They're making sure everybody is cooperating, that something operates properly. So you want to regulate certain things in our lives to protect us, right? You don't want things to get out of whack or to happen in a bad way. You want things to operate correctly. Well, because you're using your left side of the brain too much, look at, we're using that word excessive, which means too much. It's causing the right half of the brain, which is in charge of things like thinking and creativity, to be underdeveloped or underused. We're saying underdeveloped here because we're focusing right now on younger kids who are still growing. Their brains are still developing, and it's important when you're young to allow your brain to develop fully so you'll have a great life. If you're in charge of something, it means you are the boss of something. So something is under your responsibility. So your right brain has a lot of responsibility. That's how you think, and that's how you come up with creative ideas and thoughts so that you can do well in school. But also, maybe you want to be an entertainer like a musician or an actor. You need your creativity to be working well.
And who doesn't want to be a musician or an actor? That's probably what we all want to do. Nobody really wants to be a computer programmer or a bank manager or something like that. So yes, the part of your brain, the right side, is in charge of thinking, creativity. But if you're using those devices too much, the right side of your brain will be underdeveloped. And in the long term or over a longer period of time, this deficiency can trigger early onset dementia. That does not sound good.
No.
Deficiency means you're lacking in something, like a vitamin deficiency, for example. If you're not getting enough vegetables in your diet, you might have vitamin A deficiency or vitamin C deficiency. And this deficiency in the development of the right side of your brain can trigger, or it can start, early onset dementia. And early onset means it's something that starts earlier than it normally does. Dementia usually starts in older people, I guess, when they're, say, in their 60s or so.
Oh, I would
70s.
say 70 or 80, yeah.
Yeah, maybe even later than that. But early onset dementia could be starting when you're even as young as your 30s or maybe even younger.
Yeah, scary. Well, there's a doctor, we're calling him a neuropsychiatrist, someone who studies psychiatry or your brain, things relating to your mental health, but they relate it to your brain function, so that's why they add that neuro there, which refers to your brain. He has claimed or said this, that in essence, the internet makes you dumber. In essence is often used to kind of summarize a kind of a big idea, or maybe someone says a lot of words and they just want to summarize what they just said into one simple sentence. Here's the summary of what we've just been saying. Hey, guys, the internet makes you dumber. We don't want that. This claim is especially true for children and teens whose brains are still developing. Watch out, kids. If they grow up relying on the internet, instead of their own thinking and memory abilities, their brains could become as impaired as that of a dementia patient. This is terrible news.
Doesn't sound good indeed.
Yeah.
So if something is impaired, that means it has some kind of disability, which is very specific, okay? You could be hearing impaired, which means you're hard of hearing, or maybe you're even deaf. So your brain might become as impaired as that of a dementia patient, somebody who's in their 80s and they forgot who they are and they're acting kind of strange. They're no longer their self. You might actually be just like that person. So, hey, I don't think you want that to happen to you, so you better think again before you pick up that smartphone.
Well, for many people, computer use has become inevitable. It's true. You know, most of us just have to use the computer, whether it's because it's required for your job, or maybe it's just the fastest way to communicate with somebody. For us here in Taiwan, a lot of our communication with friends and family in the United States is over the internet. So we have to use our computer.
We do.
Researchers insist that people limit their computer use. If you insist that something happens or something takes place, it's almost like you're demanding it. And you're saying this with a lot of force. So whatever you need or want, you're saying, I must have this. Well, they're saying that people must limit their computer use. I know some of us, at least I can't completely throw my computer away or not look at my smartphone, but I can say, you know what? Today I'm not going to spend all that time looking at things on the internet. I'm going to just maybe open a book or pick up the phone and just talk to someone instead.
It makes sense, although sometimes people feel weird talking on the phone nowadays. It's, why are you calling me? Why don't you send me a message or something like that? So in any case here, these researchers insist that we limit our computer use, and people can do this by taking walks, get close to nature, especially if you live in Taiwan. There are lots of mountain areas to go hiking to, beaches and stuff like that. You're all just letting these things pass you by if you spend all your time on your device. You could also take up hobbies and interests. If you take something up, it just means you start doing it and you make it part of your life. I'm going to take up drawing next year. I'm going to start doing more painting and stuff like that. And yes, indeed, you need to take up these hobbies and interests that do not involve your digital devices. You actually use your real body. You could play what I call body games as opposed to video games. Go out and actually play a real game live. Feel the air, use your muscles and your eyes and stuff. It's a much bigger challenge than video games, believe me.
Well, all of these are great ideas. I think the most important thing is for you to limit your own activity. You know, sometimes we have to be in charge of our own lives, right? So maybe you need to re-examine how much time you spend on your devices without keeping internet usage in check, which means making sure you're monitoring it and not exceeding your limits. You know, you should actually look and see how much you use it. We could see the rise of an entire generation of people that is completely dependent upon the internet. Maybe some people never learn how to find an address because they always use Google Maps.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to stop using Google Maps and figure it out yourself.
Or GPS. Yeah. What are you, stupid or something? It doesn't take much to memorize stuff on a map. I do that all the time. It worked before. It still works today.
If you're dependent on something, guys, it means you're really relying on it. So don't be so dependent on the internet.
And don't be too dependent on us to learn English. You could also learn on your own. Okay, everybody, that brings us to the end of our explanation. Here comes our Chinese teacher once again.
接着第三个空格的句子提到 The overuse of computers and smart devices can result in blank 3 activity of the left side of the brain. 在这里提到呢，过度的使用电脑或者是一些智慧型的仪器呢，可能导致我们的左脑怎么样的活动。我们来看一下第三题 A. Distinctive有特色的 B. Infinite 无限的 C. Majestic 雄伟的 D. Excessive 过度的。因为左脑是负责逻辑、语言跟分类，而你太多的使用电脑跟这些智慧型装置的结果，可能就会造成左脑呢有过度的活动了。所以搭配文意，我们就选择 D 选项的 excessive。接着第四个空格的句子，延续这样子的主题。This then causes the right half of the brain, which is in charge of thinking and creativity, blank 4. 因为呢，我们的左脑过度的活动，就导致右脑负责的是思考跟创造力，就会有怎样的结果呢？当然，右脑比较少用到，就比较呢会造成发展不全的结果。我们在这里还要考同学文法的概念 cause somebody 或是 something to do something， 所以后面要用不定词来表达，这样子一来就造成我们的右脑就变得发展不全了。所以第四题的标准答案就要选择 B 选项的 to be underdeveloped。接着来看到第五个空格 If they grow up relying on the internet instead of their own thinking and memory abilities, their brains could become as impaired as blank 5 of a dementia patient. 在这里的 they 指的就是前面提到的 children and teens. 这些孩童跟青少年呢，如果在成长的过程当中都一直依赖着网络，而不去使用他的思考跟记忆的能力的话呢，那么他们的大脑可能就会变得跟一个患有失智症的病患，他的受损程度是差不多的。在这里我们要比较的是两者之间大脑的相关性，所以呢，我们就用 that 来代替前面讲过的名词，在这里是以单数来表达，那么就是代替前面的 brain 这个普通名词。第五题的标准答案就选择 A, that. For many people, computer use has become blank 6. 对很多人来说，电脑的使用已经变得怎么样了呢？ A, infectious, 传染的 B, innovative, 革新的 C, impulsive, 冲动的 D, inevitable, 不可避免的。从上下文意可以看得出来，电脑的使用已经成为不可避免的，所以第六题的标准答案我们就选择 D, inevitable。 第七个空格 Internet usage in Czech.We could see the rise of an entire generation of people that is completely dependent upon the internet. 如果我们没有控制、抑制网络的使用，可能会看到整个世代的人就完全依赖网际网络的这样的现象了。在英文里面，我们讲到 keep something in check， 就有控制跟抑制。如果不这么做，就会看到后面很糟糕的现象，所以搭配文意，第七题我们就选择 B 选项的 without keeping。 以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
That brings us to the end of our program. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for spending less time on your digital devices. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.